And there's, let's see, we found this strategic and we had a interim director, we have a full director yet, so, but she's working on it, she's not.
Check 1, 2.
So.
Well, welcome again to another installment of the Weatherford College Speaker Series. We are delighted today to have a gentleman that I met probably about 15 years ago while working at the University of North Texas in the Career Center. His name is Amine Rizk. He is a CFP. You can see down in his name, certified financial planner. He is an expert in all things financial services, financial planning, that entire industry and world, and has probably more than 20, probably almost 30 years of experience. And so we are happy to have him today to share some insight and some value to what we're learning from an organizational leadership perspective. He's been an individual contributor, he's been a mid-manager, he's been director, VP, he's held all of those positions, and I'm happy that he can share with us today some of his knowledge and insights. So welcome, sir. Glad to have you. It's been far too long.
Well, thank you for having me.
Been far too long.
You make me sound really big. I love that introduction.
You are, man. You're a big deal. You're a big deal. And it's been far too long since we had a chance to chat, but I'm glad you were able to get us some time. Let's jump right in. So, kind of give us some background, how you started your career, what were the key turning points, where you're from, where you went to school. Just give us an overview of how you gotten to where you are currently.
Of course, that's the easiest story to tell because it's my story.
Right.
Growing up, my father was in oil and gas. And due to that, we moved around about every 3 years.
Okay.
So I was actually born in Portland, Oregon. Then we lived in Dubai, Southern California, Lafayette, Louisiana, and the Netherlands before I was in 8th grade.
Wow.
So for me, there was something interesting about all of the places that we lived in.
Mhm.
It was the people, the culture, the food, the religion, the thought process, everything around it was just an experience.
Mhm.
I got to learn English, French, took a year of Dutch and Latin growing up. And so when you live in different places, you don't just learn the language, you also learn the people and the culture. So I say all of that because I did all of that before I was in 8th grade. In 8th grade, we moved to the Woodlands, Texas. That's what brought me to Texas, and then I stayed.
Okay.
I went to college. I went to SMU in Dallas. That's what brought me to Dallas. And I was very fortunate that as I was going through school, there was something about people and there was something about business that kept attracting me to those. Those were my interests. And so financial advising was about people and about business. My major was finance and accounting, and my minor was sociology. So there was business and there was people. Again, there was these two things that kept pulling me. Growing up, my folks had this very, very simple deal that they had with me. If I do well in school, I get to play soccer. if I don't do well in school, I don't get to play soccer. So I played soccer my entire career. I had to be on Dean's List on a roll from, fourth grade going on.
Mhm.
And I also love to play instruments. I actually played piano for about 13 years. And then when I was kind of a middle teenager, I thought I was too cool for that. I tried to learn how to play the guitar. I taught myself how to do it, but I should have stuck with the piano. So if you're playing piano, just stick with it. It's an incredible instrument. So for me, again, it was people, it was business. I kept going back to these two things. And so while I was in school, I was actually very fortunate to go to an event that the Career Center had put on for us. And it was February of my senior year. And I show up about 30 minutes early to a presentation that the firm that I'm working with now was hosting. The door to the lecture hall was actually locked. I couldn't even get into it because I was there so early. So sitting at this round table, waiting for the presenters to come in. And when they walk in, it was a vice president, it was a senior manager, and another advisor who were going to tell the story. They just started peppering me with questions. They wanted to know more about myself and what I was interested in, and a lot of things aligned up to what they were looking for. And for me, I was looking at some people that I was like, I really want to be a lot more like you.
Mhm.
So I was very fortunate, and then I went through the interview process. I actually got the job while I was still in school.
Mm.
Uh, I was taking all of my licenses over spring break, and I graduated on a Saturday and started it with the firm on Monday. So for me, this is 22 going on 23 years. It feels like five. It's gone so fast, but it's been tremendous. It's been so much fun. There's been a lot of learning along the way. But
Mhm.
the two things that I go back to is it was about people, it was about business, and helping people make really good decisions about their money and on topics that they're not always very comfortable talking about. So hopefully that's a little bit of a kind of insight into how I got started in this particular career.
Wow, that is an amazing journey, even just up to this point, living in all of those amazing places from Louisiana, where the food and the culture, to Dubai, before Dubai was, cool to us, uh,
Uh,
knowing even where it was, and then the Netherlands and French and Dutch and all of that. Man, that is quite a world experience. In your opinion, and because of the major that our students are studying, what does organizational leadership mean to you when you hear that phrase?
so I'm going to pick it apart and I'm going to go to organize and then I'm going to go to leadership.
Mhm.
So I believe that leaders have the ability to pull people up. And so for anyone that likes to watch or read Simon Sinek,
Mhm.
he's an amazing author on leadership and on people. And what I've seen is that the best leaders have the ability to look at people, see them for what they're capable of doing, and then encouraging them to get there.
Mhm.
And so the saying is they see the greatness in others and they have the ability to reflect it in their eyes.
Mhm.
And being organized is just coming up with a plan, focusing on that plan, executing that plan, which the majority of people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. We know that. And so
Mhm.
organizational leadership are folks that have the ability to come up with a great plan, execute it, and then bring people on that journey with them. And so, what Simon Sinek says in a lot of his publications is that the best leaders have the ability to look into the future, tell you what it's going to look like with clarity. This is exactly what things are going to be like. And then they give you the steps of what it takes to get there, and they go on that journey with you.
Mhm.
So I think organizational leadership is about, encouraging people to get to that kind of promised place and then giving them the steps to get there, which is really an organized plan, a focused plan, and executing on it.
Yeah, those are great examples. And students really, you know, um, these are nuggets that we won't find in our textbook. These are things that you should really hear, understand, and explore, because the best part of learning information is your ability to go and fact check it. And that's the thing I think also that separates people who are capable of leadership, is that they are always researching what they've come to know. This particular semester, we are hosting a class in particular called Ethics and Leadership. And in your industry, I know that ethics, integrity, and all of those things, without it, um, you're not able to establish relationships. So tell us more about your personal beliefs on ethics and integrity, and also for your industry, how critical it is for, if you were hiring someone new to come in entry level and earn their licenses, just how critical those two parts and elements that are outside of any certification necessarily that you get, but have to be within you to be successful.
Oh yeah, absolutely critical. So when you're dealing with people's money, it's something that's very important to them. It doesn't matter if it's $1, if it's $1 million, if it's $200. I mean, money is important to people.
Mhm.
And so people want transparency. They want somebody to be honest with them. And bottom line, the question that majority of people will ask me whenever we're giving people financial advice is this what you would do for your mother, for your father, for your sister, for your brother, for your family? What would you
Mhm.
do if I was your family member? And so that's something that's of utmost importance. Um, if somebody chooses to go on and become what's called a certified financial planner, there's lots of financial advisors that have licenses, but to be a certified financial planner means you also subscribe to a code of ethics, very much so like a doctor or a nurse or an accountant who's a certified public accountant. Again, there's accountants and then there's CPAs.
Mhm.
And so a lot of these industries subscribe to a code of ethics where it's the do no harm. Treat folks as if they were, again, your own family, which I think is a very good barometer when you're
Mhm.
making decisions. Because there may be times where there becomes some gray areas. Or maybe somebody's trying to get to that next level. They've got a specific goal or something that they're focused on trying to accomplish. And if you're ever caught in that area where you're like, oh gosh, am I doing the right thing? Just
Mhm.
take a deep breath, ask yourself those questions about, if this was family, would you recommend this recommendation? Would you move forward with things? And because it's money, and because people earn an income from the recommendations they make, there may be a conflict at times. And so it's very, very important to go back to, um, what your morals and your beliefs are. So if this decision that you made was on the front page of the paper, would you be happy with that?
Wow.
And I think that's an excellent question to ask yourself whenever you're like just not sure. And usually the answer is pretty clear.
Usually. Another course this term talks about conflict and negotiation. And again, in this leadership class, we're trying to teach the skills that leaders either should have innately or things that they can learn through research and also experiential learning. But talk about past experiences and conflict negotiation and um, how to approach. And you said you had a background in sociology as well, so of course you're able to pull from that. But share some things about conflict and negotiation.
Well, it's inevitable, right? You're going to have conflict because you're working with people.
Mhm.
You're working for people. You're working in teams together, serving people. So that's only going to be a matter of time because there is some conflict. My advice, and I guess my suggestion on how to deal with conflict is I think I'm going to go back to something that may be a little bit more philosophical on it.
Mhm.
But it's put yourself in that other person's shoes and try to look at that vantage point before you go in with your own opinion and your own thoughts.
All right.
That's always been very helpful because if we can take the time to just kind of take that deep breath, get out of ourselves, and then put ourselves in that other position, we may be able to approach it in a different way, and maybe come to some resolve. And not just come to some resolve, but come to maybe an agreement where people are excited. And it could be something that's positive. So something that I've seen a lot of the best advisors and the best managers and the best leaders that I've seen have the ability to do is when they enter rooms, when they go in to see people, people are excited to see them because they know that they're going to be heard, they're going to be listened to, people are going to pay attention to them, and they may not always give them the answer that they want, but it's going to be a genuine and honest answer. And it's going to be a genuine and honest opinion. So my thoughts on that are pretty simple. It's nothing that's earth shattering, but sometimes it's more difficult to do in practice than in theory.
Mhm. So for these last two questions, these are going to be personal advice. Again, we met while he was recruiting at the University of North Texas for students or graduates rather that were coming into the financial industry space. So you've seen throughout the years um, students that are making that transition from college into that first professional job, to that career, to life. We have a mixture of students. We have some students that are traditional aged and that are college students right out of high school, and this will be their first professional experience. And then we have some that are 10, 15, 20 years as professionals, but they're hitting that glass ceiling of needing the the bachelor degree to continue to excel in their field. What are some lessons learned or life lessons on how to approach either that first professional position or trying to break through that ceiling? Maybe it's even to get from an individual contributor to a manager or a manager to a director. What are some of those lessons learned that if you back at SMU had the opportunity to glean all of that information early and knew what to do with it, how things maybe could be better? They're not
Oh
bad.
yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's going to be so much that we can do, but I would really keep it to a few things that are fairly simple, but they're just things that there's no shortcuts to. So number one is to be unbelievably coachable. Um, the people that you're talking to that are putting you in the position to get that first opportunity or to help you progress to that next level, um, they have a lot of power and influence and can help you. And they usually do because they wouldn't be in that role if they didn't want to.
Right.
So being very inquisitive on purpose, being very coachable, meaning when you're given some suggestions, you actually take them and you use them. There's a saying about being interested versus being interesting. Be
Hmm.
very interested. You don't have to come in and say very much,
I'm gonna
but
write
you have
that
to
down.
listen.
Interested
And so
versus
if you can be interested, be genuinely interested. So I remember for me, one of the questions that I was asked when I was getting started in this is if you were going to look at a line of magazines, what would you naturally be kind of interested in? Was it, Money Magazine and reading about stocks, or is it about, sports, and is it about, you know, um, cars or whatever it may be? And so if you've got an interest in that industry, in that career, and you're genuinely interested and you're interested in the people that you're working with, they're going to want to help you. So being very coachable, being very interested, investing the time in it. There is no shortcut for time. There is a wonderful book that I know a lot of folks in business refer to called Outliers.
Mhm.
And it's a Malcolm Gladwell book. And one of the big takeaways from it is the 10,000 hour rule. And what it says is to be an expert in whatever field, you have to be in that for 10,000 hours. So if it's a doctor that's in surgery, it's 10,000 hours of surgery. If it's a financial advisor, it's 10,000 hours of appointments.
Mm.
If it's a professor, it's 10,000 hours of actually teaching the subject matter. And what starts to happen is when you get the first 1,000 hours, you start to build a little confidence. When you get to 2, 3, 4,000, you may start questioning some things around the first 1,000. When you get to 5, 6, 7, 8, you're starting to build a lot of confidence. When you're at 10,000 plus, you're like, hit me. I probably know the answer. And so the 10,000 hour rule is so true. It on average will take 10 years. So if you get 1,000 hours a year, it takes 10 years to be that expert. But can it be accelerated? My thought is absolutely. Can you do it in 7, 8, 9? Maybe. Can you do it in 5, 6? Maybe. Can you do it in 2? Probably not. And how can you accelerate the 10,000 hours? When you spend that hour in that, I'm going to use an appointment.
Mhm.
You take the time to reflect, to break it down, and then to plan the next one. And now all of a sudden, a 30-minute or an hour worth of experience can actually be 2, 3, 4 hours of lessons learned because you were purposeful in dissecting what went well, what didn't, what could I do differently. And if you get in the habit of reflecting and planning, reflecting and planning, reflecting and planning and dissecting, you can accelerate those 10,000 hours and get to that next level that you want to a little bit faster. So being very coachable, being interested, and never losing sight of that 10,000 hours.
Wow. And I'm recording, but I'm still scribbling notes here because that's good stuff. That is good stuff. Okay, last question. For your industry, financial services, how do you see leadership changing in your industry? And I initially said the next 5 to 10 years, but the way things are moving so fast, probably the next 2 to 5 years. How do you see leadership changing in financial services?
Great question. So the people part is never going to change.
Mhm.
So we've got wonderful tools today that we didn't have, heck, even just a couple of years ago. And over the next couple of years, with the evolution of technology and AI and all of these amazing things that we have access to, new investments that didn't, exist years ago. Things like Bitcoin, for example. People being able to invest in art and being able to invest internationally in things that they maybe didn't have access to before. The people part isn't going to change.
Mhm.
And so there's actually this wonderful book that we have everybody read when they start with us. It's called The Common Denominator of Success. And
Mhm.
it's a little pamphlet. It was written back in 1840. But there are some lessons in there that have been tried and tested and they haven't changed. And some of the things that are in there have to do around habits and discipline. And I'll speak really quickly to this. But if somebody has a good habit, and you can think about any of them, it could be a good physical habit, it could be an eating habit, it could be a reading habit, maybe it's learning. If you do that habit over time, it's going to make you look better than you really are. It's going to improve you.
Mhm.
And the alternative is true. If we put bad information into our brain, we put bad food into our body, it's going to make us worse than what we really are. So I think habits over time can really, really impact people in a big way. And so some of those lessons that are in that common denominator of success around habits, around discipline, around work ethic, are tried and tested. They will not change. Um, I think it's the way that we approach using some of these tools that we're going to be able to have access to that will. But leadership, people, investing into folks, encouraging and coaching, um, that's going to be the same. And it's going to be wonderful to watch that next group of financial professionals in this industry and in all industries, progress and lead.
Well, this has been amazing. Would you like to share how they can follow your group, or if they want to apply, or for anything you'd like to share about the industry? There may be some that are interested in financial services.
Um, Absolutely. So if you've got an interest in people, you've got an interest in helping people, You want to help them become the best version of themselves and help them on a topic that's very critical to them, which is money and making good money decisions. This could be a tremendous career. The career as a whole, the industry as a whole, has an aging problem, just like many others. The average financial professional is 60 plus.
Mm.
And so what that means is the majority of their clients that they're working with are at the same age. And so when folks go from working to retiring, they want the person that's helping them with their money to be there for them, not to be retiring at the same time. And so there's a tremendous opportunity for younger folks to get into the industry, for younger folks to get mentored by senior advisors and to take that knowledge, get to that 10,000 hours as quickly as possible and have a tremendous career for 30, 40, 50 years. So if you have an interest in this, there's lots of great resources. I'll give you our particular website, which is Equitable. You can go to equitable.com. We've got a career tab that's on there. There's some videos where they've actually interviewed advisors and interviewed clients and talk about the impact that you can make on their lives. But if there's an interest, we'd love to chat with you and just hear your story and see if it could match up.
Amazing. Again, thank you so very much for taking this time to share with us. I owe you lunch, so I got to get over to Dallas and y'all still off 635 in the big building. He has
Right there.
amazing view from his office and everything. So
You can't miss us.
can't miss him. And it's not too far from SMU. But thank you again, Amine. I appreciate it. And we will catch up again very soon.
Thank you.